Welcome back. Time for Jen and Jenn.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Jen?
I am great. I'm jealous of you.
Why?
I saw those pictures of you at Renaissance Firearms, and you didn't take me.
Sorry, next time.
Promise?
Yes, absolutely, but you'd be proud of me. I'm actually a pretty good shot.
I noticed.
Myself.
I watched the video. I saw your pictures. I'm very proud of you.
Yes, and you know what? People can see the pictures. I will be posting them on our Facebook pages for News Radio 610 and 96.7, but they can also go to our Facebook page, which you can find us. Just type in J2J or Coffey and Wells, facebook.com/Coffey and Wells.
Absolutely.
So, before this segment, Jack was talking about, some of the that company that decided not to come to New Hampshire. For several reasons. So I think that actually ties into what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, you're right. There's a university, Ball State University, for Business and Economic Research, and they did a study, and New Hampshire has got good and bad. We earned a B rating for manufacturing industry health, and we earned a C rating for tax climate, but we scored an A on human capital. Unfortunately, an F in logistics. And I would argue with them on that last one a little bit. But
Right.
Who, you?
Absolutely. I think logistically, New Hampshire's got some things they didn't stop to consider.
I know. I was like when you said I'd argue with that. She would have been she was a fierce state representative, right?
Right.
Was?
So, I mean,
You still are? I didn't know that, did I?
No, I'm not a state rep anymore, but you can still be fierce as a citizen.
Oh no, I would argue that your platform has grown larger than when you served in the state. I'm just saying, I'm giving you credit for serving and putting your name on a ballot and putting your money where your mouth is as a state rep.
Thank you. And I think everybody should take a turn. That's what it's meant to be.
And our listeners don't know you're an EMT.
Yes.
A mom, an outspoken
citizen,
a writer,
an activist.
with a hint of
rebel.
Yes, a few people are arguing over that hint part, but try to keep it in check.
Namely your parents, your kids, and your husband. But other than that...
My dad calls me Dirty Harriet.
Oh, I like it.
I actually developed a nickname list thanks to my dad starting it. So thanks, Dad.
Let's get back to the topic. What do you think she's going to run for governor, Jen?
Well, I don't know.
I could just see the bumper stickers.
A hint of rebel.
Yeah.
Vote Jen Coffey.
Get your start with a little jolt in the morning with coffee. Jen Coffey for governor.
Let's go back to our story.
So logistics, why would you take exception with that?
I would take exception with that for a number of reasons. Number one, we have Portsmouth. We've got our great seacoast there. That is a great avenue for shipments. We border Canada. We do a lot of trade, import and export in through Canada, bordering Massachusetts. We've got a lot going for us.
And then that 95 area with Portsmouth near the trade port, we connect with three state. We have that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We have a good airport.
I was just going to say we have Manchester-Boston Regional Airport, which is a lot easier to get to and to fly out of, I believe, than to go down
we
to
need
Boston.
to start a campaign. Let's start flying local. Fly out of the Manchester-Boston Regional Airport. If it costs you a little bit more, just support the airport.
You know what?
What if it wasn't there?
It's not going to, because think about this. How much extra are you spending in gas or in rental
Parking
fees to get down to Boston?
Good point.
And you can park at Manchester. I've done it. I've parked at Manchester Airport, left my car there for 4 days.
Well, here's
minimal cost.
Here's the thought for you on your good news ideas for the day. What do we take for granted? Not granite like Granite State in our lives. I'm being serious. What do we take for granted? I can tell you that it was a troika of events that really gave Manchester, the state's largest city, its renaissance. That airport, Manchester-Boston Regional Airport, when it was built and real and beautiful, and it still is, and the Verizon Wireless Arena, and now you have the Northeast Delta Dental Stadium. Now, just for a moment, folks that take these things for granted, the Jen Coffey's point, you stop flying Manchester-Boston Regional Airport because you think you can save $20. Well, maybe it costs you more than that to get down to Boston, so fly out of Manchester. If you didn't have the Verizon Wireless Arena to go watch a professional hockey game, a lot of people stop going to some of these events. The Fisher Cats, one of the great venues for. So just think of Manchester without those three things, and where would we be at as a city? Economic development.
Exactly. New Hampshire Motor Speedway.
New Hampshire Motor Speedway, which is we have a big, huge race coming up this weekend. Where would we be as a state? So I'm just pointing that out. Good news. Good news. They're here. Two NASCAR races here in New Hampshire.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah. And I think we also are the home of one of the largest, if not the largest, zip lines in the state of New Hampshire that you can experience. Mm-hmm. Up in the North Country.
Yeah, Bretton Woods, for example, one of the biggest. Yeah, great stuff.
So, I think that F rating, I agree with Jen. It's puzzling. I think they should reassess.
Our roads got a better ranking than people would think yesterday. We were talking about
we
that.
Talked
16th
about that
in the
yesterday.
nation, Southern Tier, best interstate number one in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the most important categories at this that Ball State University brought out was the very first category of human capital. New Hampshire shines. We have an A rating. Workers represent the largest single cost of doing business, and they're the source of innovation and process improvements. And this was reported by the Seacoast paper. And you cannot put a price tag on on a good quality employee who's going to come to work every day, give you an honest day's work for an honest day's wage.
And that plays right into our Clear Channel Show Your Stripes campaign about hiring veterans.
Yes.
We have so many folks serving in this state that come back home, men and women, and they're the great employees to hire with leadership and experience and discipline and a good attitude, and that's part of our Clear Channel Show Your Stripes campaign.
Right, and I think to that point that, Jen was saying is that the A rating is good news because those measurements include, level educational attainment at the high school and collegiate level. It includes first-year retention rate of adults in community and technical colleges, the number of associate degrees being awarded per capita, and then also the share of adults enrolled in adult basic education. So I think that goes to show that education is important in this state, and that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
That's a good thing.
And the other thing is they brought out in their story that we scored a B rating in productivity and innovation, which are very strong points for New Hampshire. And New Hampshire encourages businesses to work with our community colleges, our private colleges, our public colleges, to get them involved in doing, innovative ideas and seeing what these young folks that are in school now or older folks. I got news for you. I'm a full-time college student. You're never too old to go back to school and learn something new.
And we have all great schools here. Southern New Hampshire University, one of our tremendous sponsors, but the state system, to all levels of campuses now, more convenient, great point. And the other thing before we come back, we'll come back with our Jen and Jen segment, is remembering why people move here. Now, if you're from here, you're from here. But if you move here, I'm always amazed. We know why, many of you know why you move here, and there's a reason why you move here, and we are the state that most people are jealous of, the live free or die state, and we take that for granted. We have a great state. Just do me a favor once in a while in our good news mindset here. Remember why you moved here. Remember what drove you to move here, and sometimes it's just amazing, not to bring up Dan Ray of WBZ, who was on with us a few weeks ago. Many people flee overregulated, overtaxed Massachusetts and Connecticut, where they choke off so much. And folks move here, and yet they want to bring some of the things they left here. Just a food for thought. Someone has to say it. Someone has to say it.
Jack, did you know I'm a refugee from Massachusetts?
Well, I grew up north of Boston, and my favorite part of when I have to go back, I just breathe a sigh of relief when I head north.
We literally watch as we cross the border back into New Hampshire and see the sign. The entire car will go,
You know what? I bet you in one of your studies, if someone did put like a blood pressure monitor on people when they drove, once they leave Massachusetts and come to New Hampshire, I bet you'd start seeing subtle and real drops. And when you really...
I actually have seen that in my husband. When he crosses to Massachusetts, his blood pressure rises.
Yes.
When we get back,
and you know what?
He instantly calms.
And not to promote the North Country.
To my husband.
Not to promote the North Country, but when you head north of Concord and you get up in the Ashland exit 24, and then you get even more north and you can start seeing the mountains, the blood pressure drops even more.
I love my drive home to Andover. And you see the beautiful mountains, and you never know when you're going to see deer or just the absolute gorgeous beauty that we do not take for granted. We do take for granted at times.
But the try and leave it, and you'll miss what you left. All right, we're going to take a break. Back with more of Jen and Jen plus traffic and weather. Keep it right here. All right, time again, or not time. We continue our Jenn and Jenn discussion. Jennifer Wells and Jenn Coffey. Good news. We never really hear and focus on the subject.
That's true, and we're talking about New Hampshire news, actually. And before we move on to the next topic, I wanted to bring up, because you talk about this all the time, Jack, the tax climate is considered a major part of what we call the New Hampshire advantage. And unfortunately, our state ranked a disappointing C. Now, that's based on corporate taxes, income and sales, and use taxes, as well as property and unemployment insurance tax. So companies that can virtually locate anywhere are very sensitive to the tax climate and other factors such as the availability of skilled workers. So that's probably a likely reason why so many tech companies are located in California, which is notoriously expensive and has a restrictive environment for industry. So, you talk about taxes all the time.
And he's right. He's 100% right. We need to really change the way we look at business taxes if we're going to attract the industries instead of watching them leave.
It's just a novel concept. Can you just imagine, we hear about folks up in Concord, and I give up on this ever happening in Washington. The president always talks about, have these like business meetings, with the corporate, the famous corporate chief executives will come to Washington. You know what? You need to hear from the landscaper, the small business owner, the sub shop owner, the manufacturer. But can you imagine just like if lawmakers just had like 25 assorted business owners come and speak and let them actually ask them questions about why they open their business? What can we do to help you expand?
And that's the one thing.
Wouldn't that be just a brilliant concept? Instead of like, how can we screw you by passing more laws and regulations and taxes on you? How can we help you feel bullish about your business and hire more people?
Exactly.
Wow, what a novel concept.
And that's one thing I will totally agree with you, Jack. That's one of the things that I thought a lot about when I served was here we would have a public hearing. People come in to make their comments, but what they can't do is ask the legislators direct questions and get answers. You say your piece. Anybody have a question? They only ask the legislators if they have questions. No questions? Okay, thank you. And the next person speaks. That dialogue doesn't occur, and it should occur more often. But I want to move on to our next story because I was really excited when I read this. And this is out of the New Hampshire Union Leader. The owner of nhcars.net used his skills, and I believe his name was Ed Walter. Was that his name, Jen?
Yes, it is. What he did is he bought a slightly used Invacare 3-wheeled hand cycle at a pawn shop. So he bought that for the Tilton vets up at the vets home up there.
Okay, and these things normally sell somewhere around $3,400, and they literally can give the vets enjoyment and ability to have some freedom. And this machine actually is driven by arms, not legs. So it gets people moving, and it can actually extend their life and make it more happy, more fruitful, because they're getting that energy, they're getting exercise.
A full workout, and it's an important feature for many of the older veterans who have limited or no use of their lower limbs. So it gives them something to do, gives them quality of life.
And, a big kudos to members of our Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association who helped to arrange the donation of this new rehabilitation machine that's now going to be located at the New Hampshire Veterans Home in Tilton.
Great stuff. Two of our listeners texting in messages. One to Jennifer Wells, one of our friends in the police community, saying, with shooting like that, you are welcome to sign up and join their department. Jennifer Coffey, Julie Elizabeth saying hello to you this morning.
Good morning, Julie. Thank you for listening.
Is that like two first names?
I like that.
Julie Elizabeth, is that like two first names? Is that a friend or a listener or a fan? Do you know Julie?
I do not know her, but I thank her for listening.
She's listening, yeah.
I also received messages from Don and David, so thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate your support.
Your awesome. Topic this morning on Jenn and Jenn, good news because we focus on the bad, is a great topic. I just will share this very briefly with both of you and our listeners. I remember once very distinctly at WMUR TV when I was news director, it had been a rash of bad news in the news, and I could just feel it. you could just sense with the viewers that it was just, and it
Too much.
culminated with a fatal. I think a woman who was expecting on 101 was killed, and then right before Christmas, some bridge workers in Bow. I remember like it was yesterday. They were doing work, and 2 or 3 of them were killed in a construction accident. There'd just been a rash of. So I said to the news folks, let's just put some good news on the air tonight and end the news with it. And the phones rang off the hook. People were saying thank you. So thank you to both of you, because this is you wake up. One thing about talk radio is we get into the substance. We can point out some other things that you're not being fed, spoon-fed by mainstream media.
Right.
But if you listen to the talking heads on TV in the morning on cable,
It's just too
how do
much.
people get out of bed in the morning?
Exactly.
If you're getting up to work out and listen to this stuff, I'm not saying ESPN. I'm just if you're listening to some of this news about Washington, and it's overwhelming. And I think we need to take a step back, count your blessings, just look at some good stuff. To your point.
Absolutely. And you know what? Sometimes you might find that you are in the right place at the right moment to make a serious difference. And probably a lot of people in New Hampshire didn't hear the news out of Cape Cod, Massachusetts. The Cape Cod Times, the Cape Cod Today reported that 4 beachgoers who'd gone down to Yarmouth Beach, for the holiday weekend, have some fun, happened to be in the right place at the right time and accredited with saving the lives of 4 swimmers on July 4th. And this included children. There were 3 boys, ages 11, 12, and 13, and a 20-year-old man from Roxbury. And one of the beachgoers was from New Hampshire.
Yes.
And
Donna Jo Murphy of Nashua. So shout out to Donna Jo Murphy in Nashua if you're listening.
yes, big kudos for saving a person's life.
She is also a nurse, and she administered CPR to a 20-year-old, reviving him at the scene.
It's good news. It was mentioned, but a great point by Jenn Coffey. And you also said during the break, Jen, about the neighborly thing in New Hampshire. You were talking about the humidity and weather to check on neighbors,
The
especially people.
yes, was absolutely listening to your weather report and saying, you know what, folks, you know your neighbors, you know your neighborhood. It's been really hot, really humid. If you've got neighbors that have breathing issues or are older, give a check on them. Knock on their door. Maybe you can give them a hand or just make sure that they're okay. And to speak to the point of the story we just talked about, take a CPR class. There's a lot of great classes out there. The American Heart Association, the Red Cross teaches that you could be that person who's at the right place at the right moment to save a life.
Yep, absolutely. And I also want to share a quick story. Yesterday, I received a phone call from Larry Lee Lewis, and he's going to be on the show tomorrow morning. He's producing a comedy show with a couple of Boston comedians, July 13th at the Rochester American Legion in Rochester. So he called, asked if there was any time, and I was looking at the schedule, and I was, because we are pretty booked, but he made me step back and think for a minute, because he asked me point blank, you don't have time for wounded warriors? Because that's what this whole project will benefit, the wounded warriors. And it made me think, yes, we do, because the wounded warriors, who are they? They're regular servicemen and women who went to combat, who serve our country, and we can always give back to them. So that's just another quick story that I thought was a nice story to share.
Thank you, and thank you for doing that. I agree completely. We're going to take a break there. We'll be back with more of Jen and Jen right here in New Hampshire Today. Back in a few. Welcome back. Coming up, we're going to hear from Jerry Gappins of the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, State Senator Jeb Bradley, and Jeff Feingold on business. No doubt he'll be talking about the Sturm-Ruger moving their new facility to North Carolina. But Jen and Jen, great segment this morning.
Thank you.
A lot of fun getting to bring out some stories and show where people really are making a difference in our state and in others.
Exactly. And then, again, there's good news out there, even though it's not being reported on. So
you know what? If you get a surety stare, we want to hear it. So look us up on Facebook at J2J, or look up Coffey and Wells.
J, the number 2J.
Yes,
yep.
J and the number 2J. Or look either one of us up and drop us a line. Give the station a call. Let us know what you want to hear about. Tell us those stories that you don't always get to hear every day, because we would really love to talk about it and highlight the folks in New Hampshire that are really, truly making a difference.
Great wrap, and I think the national talk and news media could learn from what you two focus on this morning. Focus on the positive once in a while and have the Jenn and Jenn spread like wildfire. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back in a few. Jerry Kapp is New Hampshire Auto Speedway. Plus an update on all the news, traffic and weather. Keep it right here. News Radio 610 and 96.7.